Hi everyone, Dankman here. Today we're going to review ideas about length and area, which are measurements we can take of shapes. Okay? So length is a measurement of how far it is from one place to another. Alright? And on our grid here, we're going to say that this is a measurement of one length unit. Okay? Same with this. So a little horizontal line or a little vertical line that covers one side of one of these little squares is going to be 1 unit in length. Okay? So this is 1 length unit in red. Any other kind of measurement, like diagonal for instance, or just kind of random, could be close to 1, but it might not be exactly 1. So 1 length unit is clear from the grid. Alright? So if we wanted to measure, for instance, this purple length, we could look at it and we could count 1, 2, 3, 4 little red lengths inside of it. Or you could also see that from a dark line to a dark line is 5, and this doesn't go all the way, so it's short by 1. So this is a length of 4. Alright? Area is different than length. Area answers the question, how much surface is covered? And that's just different than length. Because if I wanted to ask you how much surface was covered by this red box, it's not the same as a length. You can't just say 1 length unit, because a length unit would just measure how far it is from one place to another. But this isn't a how far question, it's how much paint would take, for instance, to cover all of those boxes. So an area measurement will measure in these squares. And one of these squares will be 1 square unit. So now that we've looked at the difference really briefly between length and area, I'm going to go back up to length. I'm going to say, if we look at these, it's going to be 1 length unit up top, or 1 unit, sometimes we call it. But when we look at area, it's not just a unit, it's a square unit, because it's going to be a question of how much surface is covered. And so if we want to find the size of this whole red box, we have to find out how many of these 1 square units fill the whole box. So I could count them. That's 1, 2, 3 across the top and 3 across the bottom. So the entire rectangle here has an area of 6 square units. Okay? And sometimes we call that 6 units square. Okay. So if I wanted to find the area of this shape here, and it was conveniently drawn on this grid for me, I could just split it up into squares and count each square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So the area of this purple shape is 9 square units. And I'll just write SU for square units. Okay? If I wanted to do a slightly more complicated shape, maybe for instance, I wanted to do a shape that involved a kind of triangular piece to it. You can see this triangular piece right here. Well, filled in on the inside of the shape in green, I can count all of those whole squares. And then what's left over is a diagonal chop that cuts a square in half. So I'm going to say that this little white space right here is 1/2 of a square. And so the total green area it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another 4, so that's 8, and another 2 is 10, and then a half there. So I'm going to say that's 10 and 1/2 square units, or 10.5 units squared.